Wonderful. So,
So thank you for joining us, and from New Jersey. So David, you've been here in Chicago for quite some time, and sent us your resume with your work experience. But if you'd still like to share a little bit about your background with us, and lead in with that into a Devar Torah, and we have the texts that you sent to us as well.
oh, wonderful. Great. Thank you. It's a pleasure to speak with you and to see you this morning. I'd like to tell you a little bit about my background, how I was raised, my education, and so forth. I was born in Petah Tikva in Israel to parents who grew up in South Africa. I never lived in South Africa, but that's where my parents came from. My father's parents emigrated to South Africa from Lithuania in the early 1930s, and my mother's parents came from England originally, and lived in South Africa. I lived for about 10 months in Petah Tikva, then we moved to London, England for 4 years when my father was a resident. Then we moved to Sydney, Australia for 2.5 years, and then we came to Boston, to the US on Flag Day in 1969. So that explains partly how I speak the way I do, and also to let you know that I'm a naturalized American citizen and also a citizen of Israel. I was raised mostly in Newton, Mass. Went to Hebrew school at Temple Emmanuel, a conservative synagogue in Newton, and unlike I think most of my peers, I actually enjoyed Hebrew school. We were not a particularly observant family, didn't keep kosher or Shabbat, but I did enjoy the Hebrew language, and that stayed with me, so that when I became more involved Jewishly, really after college, I had that wonderful framework to connect with. I went to Yale undergrad. I studied Russian and East European studies, and I was very active in classical music. I played clarinet, and my goal was to pursue a career in music. So after college, I was taking lessons with the late Leon Rushanov, who taught at Juilliard, and was preparing for my auditions for music school. During that time, I began to get more involved Jewishly, and around the same time that I was debating which music school to go to, I was also thinking about pursuing a Jewish education. Really after college, for reasons I don't think I need to get into right now, I became very interested in Jewish life, and decided that I needed to learn more, and felt an obligation to teach others. So after a few years, I began rabbinical school. I wasn't sure where to start. I spent a year at Rosenberg in Israel, and then began at Yeshiva University at Reeds in 1987. During rabbinical school, I was awarded a Wexner Graduate Fellowship, and my experience at Wexner was very, very profound, not just during rabbinical school, but beyond, and here I am today at a Wexner alumni gathering in New Jersey. So, in fact, my identity as a Wexner Fellow is I don't know how to evaluate it exactly in terms of how important that is to me as a rabbi, but I've always enjoyed being with a diverse group of Jewish leaders and a diverse group of rabbis and non-rabbis. In terms of professional experience, maybe this is a good time to go into a little text study. Rabbi Sid, what do you?
Yeah, that's great.
So great, and then I can get into my professional experiences and some thoughts about my interests and goals. So I shared with you a couple of passages connected to our parsha this week, Parshat Ki Tisa. The parsha has a number of very powerful descriptions of collaboration, of working together. Some of them very positive, and one which is quite negative. I'd like to focus on the positive ones. The first is from the beginning of the parasha and describes the obligation of what's called machatzit hashekel, the half shekel. So you can see on the top of the first page of your source sheet, from almost the beginning of the parasha, Ze yitnu kol ha'over al ha'pakudim. This is what everyone who is entered in the records shall pay. Machatzit hashekel b'shekel hakodesh, a half shekel by the sanctuary weight. Esim gerah hashekel, 20 gerahs to the shekel. Machatzit hashekel terumah l'Adonai, a half shekel as an offering to the Lord. So this half shekel has a complex history, and part of its purpose was to fund the ongoing work of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle, and later the temple. So the half shekels that were collected provided a public fund for the operation of the central religious center of the Jewish people. Maimonides, in his laws of shkalim, laws of shekels, says that even the poor person who lives on charity, this is the second text, is required to give. He borrows or sells the garment off his back and contributes a silver half shekel, as it is written, the rich shall not give more, and the poor shall not give less than half a shekel. And Maimonides goes on to say, all are obligated to give the half shekel: priests, Levites, Israelites, converts, and emancipated slaves. Now, that list has a lot of people on it. It doesn't have the entire people, it doesn't have women on it. But there is a basic idea here that the obligation of the half shekel is one which unites the people, and which every person, no matter their personal economic status, and no matter which tribe they come from, has an obligation to participate in the welfare of the community. Everyone belongs. Everyone is in it together. In terms of the role of women, Maimonides writes, following the Talmud, that if a woman decides to give her contribution is accepted. That's not exactly egalitarianism, but there's a sense that the half shekel is something which unites the entire people, and in theory, adults, men and adult women as well. It's interesting to me that the model of the half shekel tells us that we all have an obligation to the welfare of our community, of the organizations and the bodies that help to make our community healthy and vibrant, and that no one is fully sufficient in their contribution. You can only give half a shekel. Your half shekel has to be completed by others, and in this sense, everyone has an essential contribution, and no one is self-sufficient. So that's one model of collaboration, of working together, being part of a community. Another model comes from the bottom of the source sheet, which I call skilled craftspeople. And this describes a special role played by particularly gifted and talented people. The ones who are named here are Bezalel and Oholiav. And these are people who are described as having great talent. See, I have singled out by name Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah. I have endowed him with the divine spirit of skill, ability, and knowledge in every kind of craft. Moreover, I have assigned to him Oholiav, son of Achisamach, of the tribe of Dan, and I have also granted skill to all who are skillful, that they may make everything that I have commanded you. This is a description of the people, the chief craftsmen who would make the vessels and the tapestries and other aspects of the tabernacle. These are people who clearly they're described as having talents, and presumably they had an interest in craftsmanship, and they had training. So they represent a group of people who stand out because of their personal dedication, their personal interest, their personal their training, and their experience, which makes it possible for them to take a leadership role. In our communities and in our organizations, we need both membership in general, the half shekel, and we also look to find special ways in which talented people can share their skill, their training, the works of their hands, to help make communal structures and our organizations successful, vibrant, and a source of beauty and inspiration and instruction. So this is a question. These are themes that are relevant at all times, and they have a particularly urgent application right now. In the last text that I've shared, Maimonides says that the collection of the half shekel took place in the month before Nisan. Nisan is the first month of the temple year, of the tabernacle year. So in the month of Adar, or in this case, it would be the second Adar, the announcement would be made. This is what's reflected in our own practice of having Shabbat Shkalim, announcing the giving of the shekels, and opportunities were given. And as the month of Nisan approached, a more and more urgent appeal was made. So in our Jewish calendar year, this is a good time to think about what it is to be part of an organization, part of community, and about ways that we can share up our talents and our interests and our experience to help the institutions flourish, whether it's our congregations or whether it's our federations or Chicago Board of Rabbis. So that's a few thoughts to think about today. Shall I go on to tell you about my professional experience, Rabbi Sid?
Absolutely, thank you.
And I see Rabbi Rudolph is here as well.
Yes.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Good to see you. I'm glad we can be part of the same call. So let me share a little bit about my professional work. I put it on in my resume. I had 5 years of experience as a rabbi in Canada from 92 to 97. I was at Congregation Beth Tefillah, one of 3 congregations in London, Ontario. I learned how to say A there. I was very involved, obviously, in the congregation, and also in my time there was active in community work, including regular meetings with the rabbis of the local conservative and reform congregations. In 97, I came to Chicago as executive director of the Hillel of the University of Chicago, where I served until 2006. And in this work, I played a rabbinic and pastoral role, as well as being executive director of a small not-for-profit, and being ultimately responsible for fundraising, for program, for relations with the university, and with alumni. It was a role that was quite broad, and brought me into contact with a whole gamut of members of the faculty and the community and students. I was providing support to all the minyanim that met at Hillel, as well as including giving Divrei Torah to the Yavne minyan. And it was enjoyable work. It was challenging work. In 2007, I joined the staff of what is now called JCFS Chicago, Jewish Child and Family Services, as coordinator of Jewish Educational Services. In that capacity, my main work has been to direct a therapeutic day school for Jewish children with behavioral and emotional disabilities. I'm not a social worker. I'm not a special educator. I work with a team of special educators and social workers and others to serve the needs of children. Some of them referred to us by Chicago Public Schools, many of them referred by educators at other schools, and providing an education with the goal to the students' reintegration when possible into a mainstream school setting. So in that work, I've got a lot of connections with educators at a whole variety of schools in Chicago. It's been and continues to be very rewarding and meaningful work. In my work at JCFS, I've had the opportunity to spread out into a number of areas to really following areas of interest for me. So within the Therapeutic Day School as a whole, I chair our Continuous Quality Improvement Committee, which is a group that looks at a whole range of data about our students to get a sense of whether we are meeting the goals that we've set. Are we looking at the correct data? What questions do we have to ask about it? So that's a work that involves a fair amount of technology and looking at spreadsheets and working with the team throughout our school and then the CQI department of the agency. I have been very active on what used to be called J-CARES. It's no longer J-CARES, efforts to address domestic abuse and harassment in the Jewish community. I'm a member of the diversity committee of the agency. And for the last about 6 or 7 years, I've also been serving as liaison for the community, for the agency to the Orthodox Jewish community. I was awarded the Ken Jacobson Award this past September, which is the agency's I guess most prominent award for staff excellence. So I was very happy to receive that award. JCFS has been a wonderful, and as I said, continues to be a wonderful professional home for me, and a place where I can really sort of spread my wings and work in different areas. One area that grew out of my work for J-CARES is my work with the Clergy Task Force of Jewish Women International, which I've been part of for the last 7 or 8 years, I'm not sure. And that's a group of clergy, mostly rabbis. We have one cantor in the group from around the country, Canada, Israel, Australia, that addresses domestic abuse and sexual abuse generally in the Jewish community. And I was asked to be co-chair of the Clergy Task Force. I'm co-chair with a reform rabbi from North Carolina. And it's really a wonderful opportunity to work with colleagues throughout and to do educational work and training. During my years, all my years at JCFS, I've also been teaching for the Florence Melton School of Adult Jewish Learning, and that's been a wonderful experience because I really like to teach. I'll just say a few more words about interests and then goals. Does this sound good? Is this helpful?
So yeah, I mean, I think you've hit on a great deal of your community experience, communal experience, and pluralistic as well. Let me ask you if it's okay. So you mentioned how much you enjoy the work that you're currently doing in JCF.
Yes.
So why do you see, what is it about this position that interests you particularly that you'd consider coming?
So in my work at JCFS, most of it is on behalf of specific clients, specific students and their families and the schools they come from, and educators. And in many other areas of the agency, I'm working with clients, and it's very rewarding work. I see in the position at CBR and JUF an opportunity to have to make a meaningful impact on a broader stage, and to have an impact with colleagues, and really to make a difference for the entire Chicagoland Jewish rabbinic community and the community as a whole. So I see it as an opportunity to spread my wings further, if you see. I mean, I find it, it's been, I didn't realize how gratifying it really is gratifying and meaningful to be able to see the success of an individual child. That really touches me very deeply, and I think that so I can't underestimate how meaningful that has been for me. I do see in the CBR JUF role a chance to make a bigger impact and to support the work of colleagues. So it's really taking things to a higher level in terms of making an impact. In other words, I really think that I can spread my wings further than I currently am, as gratifying as my work has been. Can I tell you a little bit more about my interests and then goals? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I definitely, I'd love to hear about your interests, your goals. And one of the things we talked about was both sharing your goals for yourself as well as goals that you might have for the CBR in the future.
Right. How about I do goals and then interests? I I'm wherever I find myself, I try to do a number of things. I try to, find out where people are at. What are the needs that people currently feel, whether it's an individual student, whether it's different aspects of the broader Jewish community. In my role as an Orthodox community liaison, what kind of themes are percolating in the Orthodox community that it'd be useful for clinical staff at Jewish agencies to have a sense of, to have further training in. So I'm always looking to find areas where I can make a meaningful impact to address needs that are currently felt. And I love teaching. I've always loved teaching and continue to love teaching. And I'm always interested in building capacity. And I find in my work, particularly the last decade, where I feel like I've been my most creative, that I want to address needs that are expressed, roles that need to be addressed, and also find ways in which to make our organizations more dynamic and impactful. I've been a member of the CBR since coming to Chicago. At various points, I've been more or less involved. During my time at JCFS, when the daytime hours are taken up by my responsibilities at the NAP Center, the Therapeutic Day School in Yeshiva, I've not had the capacity to participate in meetings, but I'm very, very eager to see how I can make an impact in the work of Chicago rabbis throughout Chicagoland. So I see it as a real opportunity to both to support, to find ways of new initiatives. I know, Rabbi Sid, you mentioned that in the past, CBR used to have a TV show, the Sanctuary TV series, which it doesn't currently do. So as I was thinking about ways in which we can take advantage of the talents and interests of members of CBR, whether it's in the area of brief Torah videos or perhaps a podcast, to expand our voice and to make an impact throughout the community for those who are members of our congregations and those who are not. So I guess that's my sense, to teach, to seek new areas to serve, and to make a bigger impact on the community. Whatever areas of support members of the CBR need to have, I would like to address, and I look forward to learning more about that, and forward to helping the Board of Rabbis be a more essential and more beneficial organization for its members, and to also to seek to. While I've been here, I'm asking people to join who have not yet joined in the Chicago area, and so those are things I'm looking forward to learning more about and making a positive contribution.
Fantastic. That's great.
Morning. Yeah, I just said hello to Rabbi Siegel.
Oh, fantastic. So I know you've had a lot of, your career has spanned all ages of people.
Yeah.
Part of this role is going to be the JUF rabbinic educator. And so in the role of the agency, can you share some of your experiences that might be relevant, that have been mentoring or teaching of young Jewish professionals, of young Jewish professionals?
So I've had the opportunity to participate in a number of trainings at JCFS. Whether it's around issues of sexual harassment, or certainly in the work of the Continuous Quality Improvement Committee, where I've been chair for the last, I guess, 6 or 8 years, working with a diverse team of staff, developing them as leaders. I have not done a lot of formal mentoring, but I have had opportunities to do training, and I look forward to more of that. Thinking what else. We recently had I and a much more junior member of the staff of the Therapeutic Day School. Did a training for a recent staff gathering on the spirit of generosity, which is an approach that the agency has used. So there are a number of formal and informal ways that I've served, both at JCFS and in my work in Wexner in mentoring and teaching younger colleagues. And in terms of teaching, I do a lot of that, both at Melton and personally. I taught a class at Beth Emet in Evanston on Friday. I take opportunities to teach when I can, and I have if you're interested, I have a YouTube channel, I suppose, called Torah in a Minute, where I make 1 minute long Torah videos. So if you're interested in looking that up on YouTube, you can see that.
Cool. So let me ask you, in terms of a collaborative role within within the JUF organization. So they're going to be working on outreach, community outreach type programs, not necessarily directed towards actively educated or integrated Jews, but trying to bring others in. How do you see yourself working in that kind of an environment?
I look forward to it. I would look forward to it. I've had the opportunity to, and I haven't done teaching quite like that, but in my work at Melton, I've taught in the early years. I've taught groups of parents. I've taught educators. As well as people who are taking the Melton core classes or some of what we call the graduate classes. So I've taught classes on the dramas of Jewish living, on Jewish history, as well as classes on specific areas within the Torah or mysticism and so forth. So I in my teaching, I always try to bring whatever the teaching is to make relevant connections to what people are confronting in their lives. So, for example, if I'm teaching a class, a Melton class on Bamidbar or Vayikra, whatever it may be, I'll look for areas where the experience that we're talking about in a biblical text is connected to issues of the moment or issues of being a Jew in America, whatever it may be. I would think with in my understanding of the role, the educator role for JUF, I'd be working with quite likely younger programming colleagues. Am I right about that? Am I getting that correctly?
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Right. So folks who are much younger than myself and who don't have the rabbinic backgrounds, but who are providing programming for families or for young people, whatever it may be. And I would work very, very hard, as I currently do, to bring the teaching, to keep it relevant to whatever the goals and experience of the educators. So, you know, I'm appearing to you wearing a jacket and a tie, and I typically look like this. I come across sometimes rather, I come across as a formal person, perhaps reserved. So I think I'm able to relate and talk to all kinds of people, and I'm very confident that I would be able to provide useful education and material for a wide variety of folks at JUF.
Okay, thank you. One area that we haven't talked about yet, and something that came up when we were sitting as a committee, is the issue of Israel. It can become a divisive issue within the broader community as well as clearly within the Jewish community. How might you want to deal? How would you see the CBR dealing with those kinds of situations?
Thank you for raising that. I was hoping you would. I made a note about that. I feel very, very much that it would not be my role at all to try to establish the correct or the official line of the CBR. I think it's impossible, and I think it would be unhelpful. A lot of my work is about education and raising awareness. I would see my role really as an educational one, both to share information when useful, to allow the organization to express a wide range of views on Israel. I don't think it's particularly useful to share my own thoughts about specific Israeli policies, whether it's like the nation state law or the way in which in which Israel relates to the liberal movements or to American Jewry in general. And as I said, I'm an Israeli citizen. My children are Israeli citizens. My son volunteered for Tzahal. I have a lot of personal feelings, which I've been happy to talk about, in a kind of informal way. But as I said, I see my role as sharing information, as providing a very broad tent within the, and I don't know precisely whether the CBR has a statement or understanding about how Israel relates. Obviously, our JUF is very dedicated to Israel, which I think is appropriate. But I would try as much as possible to provide to model a kind of openness and pluralism. In all my teaching, I really work very, very hard not to present any kind of official or correct or the Jewish view on pretty much anything. And I certainly see myself playing that kind of useful role for CBR.
Thank you. Have you had much experience with interfaith work?
I have not had much experience with interfaith work. And I certainly, well, when I was at Hillel, I did. So in my 9 years at Hillel, I was active in in our clergy organization, and I went to meetings, took part in programs. I would say I haven't had experience in the last 10 years, to be honest. We had a number of programs sponsored at Hillel or that Hillel co-sponsored, which brought together students from different religious traditions, Jewish, Christian, Muslim. I think that it's essential. I was having a conversation with some community leaders in West Rogers Park, where I live. After the massacre in Pittsburgh, there was a community gathering that was sponsored by our alderman in the 50th ward, which brought together whoever wanted to come from the ward. And there were many people who were present who were not Jewish, but primarily it was a kind of opportunity for the Orthodox community and for the police to figuratively hug each other. And I had a conversation with Howard Rieger, who's active in Jewish life in West Rogers Park. And I said, really, I noticed that we did not bring together the other faith communities in the neighborhood. And I have I've shared with several colleagues that I would like to be part of that kind of dialogue to support the welfare of the entire neighborhood and the entire community. So I'm very eager to be part of interfaith work for the sake of the benefit of the Chicagoland Jewish community.
Fantastic. Are there areas that we haven't addressed that you feel the committee should know about that we haven't covered?
Well, I'd like to share some of my interests. We've talked about Israel, interfaith work, education, pluralism. I feel that I tend to it's like a double negative. I tend to think in non-zero sum game terms. I don't think that the goal of Jewish life is to find the perfect way of being Jewish. Whether before or certainly since the Enlightenment, there's a multiple number of ways of expressing Jewish identity. I have great confidence in the Jewish community and in the good faith of Jewish leaders from a variety of ideological perspectives. I don't see my role ever as laying down the official way, even in my work as Orthodox community liaison. I'm not trying to to express what I consider the official way. So I'm very comfortable working with a variety of people, doing a variety of projects, and I think I would be successful at that. You know, when I was at Hillel, I had all kinds of students. I had students with theological questions. I had students with who were LGBTQ. I was criticized by some for allowing Hillel to host a gathering of LGBT, I'm not sure Q was part of the acronym at the time, students who nationally who came to our Hillel, and I was criticized by some for allowing that, for making it seem that Hillel was supportive of gay life. And I was very comfortable to do that. So I'm not saying I'm the most pluralistic person in the world, but I am comfortable dealing with a wide variety of expressions of Jewish life. Can I share a little bit about my interests? Yeah. So as you can tell, I love to teach. I love text. I'm interested. I haven't done this yet, but I'm interested in doing some podcasting. I found there's an app called Anchor, which lets you create podcasts for free and upload them to the to various podcast libraries. I love music. I play clarinet. I'm active in the klezmer group. Since my days of playing classical music, I've moved more towards jazz and klezmer and playing by ear more than playing by sight. I love to listen to music. I listen to a variety of music, classical, jazz. I'm really interested right now in the music of Philip Glass, who I was amazed to learn has written 12 symphonies. I didn't know people were still writing that many symphonies in the 21st century. I enjoy writing. I write a little bit of fiction. I'm very dedicated to my family. I have 4 children, 2 of whom are married. I have 3 grandchildren and look forward to seeing them whenever possible. 2 of them are in Columbus, Ohio, and 1 is has moved from New York and going to be moving to the Boston area. My parents and my mother-in-law live in Winston Towers, half a mile away, and we get together very frequently. As I said, I come across sometimes as a very formal person, and I do have a sense of humor, and I can be quirky. So let's just put it that way. Yeah, I think that's basically a sense of who I am. I don't have my clarinet here, or I could play ocarina on my phone for you, but I don't think that would be necessary right now.
Thank you very much. It's important for us to get that well-rounded sense of you, and I feel like I've learned a little bit more, not only about you as an educator, and your outstanding ability to teach and bring scholarship to those around you, but also a sense of your personality. And I really very much appreciate the time that you've spent with us. Before I sign off, I just want to ask my colleagues who are on the call, does anyone have a question that they wanted to ask or something that we've missed? Please, this is a chance to jump in.
I'll ask a question. First of all, thank you, David, for all of your, for sharing so much. It was really, and I'll just second Sid's remarks, that it's a pleasure getting to know you and hearing more about your important work. Why do you think interfaith dialogue is important?
I think interfaith dialogue is essential for us as Jews living in America. Certainly in our American context, I don't think that we're in a sense, no religion is an island. We live in a community, and for us to flourish, both even if it's a matter of our own personal self-interest, I think it's essential to have positive and productive relations with different faith communities. And for the welfare of our city and our Chicagoland area, I think it's essential that we bring the resources of our own tradition and our own work to the welfare of the city and area. And I think it's important for us to learn more about the needs and the concerns of other faith communities. I think we're an essential part of the community, and we should be front and center in being at the table and listening and sharing.
Thank you.
I think certainly in terms of our concerns for the city, for those of us who are in the city, and for our relations with Israel, I think there's essential work at maintaining open dialogue and productive dialogue with various Christian communities, Muslim communities, and others.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Michael. Anyone else have anything?
Please. Good morning, Rabbi. Hopefully you can hear me, but quickly, could you just outline for us what you see as some reasons why it's difficult, the challenges in place for engaging less affiliated Jews in Jewish life in Chicago?
Well, more and more Jews are not formally members of congregations, or if they're members of congregations, they may be members, up to bar bat mitzvah, there's I think there's generally a question of how relevant people feel Jewish life is to their experience. There are many there are many draws on people's attention, and I like watching shows on Netflix. I'm not that up on pop music, but there's a lot of things that cross our attention, and it's not clear that Jewish concerns are uppermost. So I think it's always important for those of us who are dedicated to Jewish life to create as many points of connection as possible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Anyone else? Because we're reaching our time. Okay. Well, even though I'm looking at David, I want to thank once again Rabbi David Rosenberg for being with us this morning, for sharing his insights, his really a piece of your heart and soul with us this morning, educating us and helping us to get a better sense of who you are. I think it's been a wonderful morning, and our plan is we'll be doing 2 more of these candidates Zoom interviews, and we'll be meeting on the 28th as a committee. So hopefully we should be able to have some more information shortly after that for you. So, sorry, I'm not looking at you now, but I assume that you're still here and understanding. Okay. Thank you all for being here. I will be sending this out to the whole committee this afternoon, and have a great morning, everyone.
Thank you everyone for being part of it. Thank you for the opportunity to share and continue to talk together. Okay.
Thank you. Good night.
You're very well. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.